Get your stinking paws off my miniature, you damn dirty ape. I'm the Brush Monkey, and in this video I'll show you how I painted a Rockgut Troggoth. Starting off with some Scrag Brown for a base coat on all of the skin. It doesn't matter if you get it on anything else, we'll be painting over that shortly anyway. Next up we're going to be applying Deathclaw Brown. This we're going to be dry brushing onto the model over the skin parts we've just painted in Scrag Brown. To do this you need to load up quite a large soft brush, wipe off any excess paint onto a paper towel. Then gently brush it over the rest of the model until we get this difference. Now for a coat of Ungor flesh. We'll be applying this in the same way as we did the Deathclaw Brown, with a large soft dry brush over all of the skin tones. Next up is Mephiston Red. This is going to go onto all of the scales on his back, his thighs and arms. I also worked this around the edges where the red scales met the skin. I used dry brushing for doing this, so I gave a gentle blend from red to Scrag Brown. Now for some Wild Rider Red. I'm going to apply this as a heavy dry brush over all of the red. Then it's back to the Ungor flesh to brighten up the chest and stomach area with a much more gentle dry brush than before. I've watered this pot of Seraphim Sepia down to make it into a glaze consistency. I paint this all over all of the flesh on the model. This softens the transition between the Scrag Brown, the Deathclaw Brown and the Ungor flesh. Using a bloodletter glaze, I do the same thing for all of the scales, his back, his thighs and his forearms. You can see the difference the bloodletter glaze makes. Gawthor Brown's up next. I use this on his loincloth and on any straps that he has on his arms or his legs. Then it's on with some Baneblade Brown. I use this to highlight the Gawthor Brown on his loincloth and edge highlight any straps. Now for any bones on the model. I'm using Carrick Stone as a base coat for this. I then use Agrax Earthshade over everything I've just painted a Carrick Stone to add a bit of depth to the bone. I also use the Agrax Earthshade in all the recesses on his loincloth. This helps add a bit of definition and contrast between the higher points and the lower points. Next up is a Shabti Bone. This is to highlight all the bones hanging from his waist and the claw on his wrist. Now for Genestealer Purple. I use this for the inside of his mouth. Then Calidor Sky. This is for his eyes. A fine brush and a steady hand is needed. I then put a spot of Temple Guard Blue in the centre of each eye, being careful not to get it on the skin around the eyes. Back with more Gawthor Brown, this time for all of his teeth. Next I use Carroburg Crimson and I paint the scar on his belly and a spot on each of his many warts and welts. The wash pulls around the base of each of these to make them look sore. Then Avalanche Sunset. A dot of this on each zit to make them look nice and pussy. Going back to the Shabti Bone, apply this to the teeth, but leaving some of the Gawthor showing at the base of each tooth. Eshin Grey next. Cover everything in his stone, in this case the whopping great boulder above his head, and being careful not to get any on his hands. Dawnstone is applied next, all over the stone, using a small dry brush. Caliban Green with a highlight of Warpstone Green, and then Moot Green as a final highlight to paint the vines on the rock. Finishing touches now, Cadian Flesh Tone as a base coat for the little worm dealie, followed by a highlight of Kislev Flesh. Final step, Scale 75 Weathering Powder Mars. Use an old brush to apply this to all of the stone recesses. However, be aware, when you've used this weathering powder, be sure to seal it on the model immediately, otherwise you'll find yourself leaving fingerprints all over the place. And there we have it, a complete Rockgut Troggoth. You can apply all of these techniques to all of the Rockgut models, and any other models for that matter. See you next time on the Brush Monkey.